Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Gilkey with my co-host Keith Tate. It's Tuesday night on Arkansas Motorsports Magazine's Tuesday Night Tune-Up. And we're here in Morrilton, Arkansas tonight at Elia's Mexican Grill. And we've just finished some fantastic food, so if you have the chance, get down here to Morrilton, Arkansas, and come by Elia's Mexican Grill and sit down and have a fabulous meal like we've had tonight. They're our guest host tonight, guest sponsor on the show tonight, so we appreciate them having us tonight. And we're with Keith Lawson and founder of the Comp Cam's Dirt Late Model Series, Chris Ellis. These two gentlemen have joined us tonight, so we're gonna have a lot of fun over the next hour and 10 minutes. And before we get underway, we want to thank our sponsors, Chambers Bank, with 28 locations throughout Arkansas, Shaw Race Cars, True Grid Auction Service in Dardenne, Arkansas. Heath, talk a little bit about their auctions they got going on this week.
We got a big tool auction going on right now. A lot of
metal fabrication.
So if you need anything like that, building knives or whatever you're doing, they've got it all this week.
They do. So check out True Grid Auctions. Also, we want to thank, like I said, Shaw Race Cars up in Batesville, Arkansas, and Kevin Rogers with KR Performance Fuels down in Texas. He supplies Arkansas, so check all those great sponsors out. And with that, we'll move on to Weston Petroleum's latest and breaking racing news with Heath Tate's report.
Well, we had the Comp Cam guys around this week at I-30 and Batesville. Legit. Had a lot of good racing with that bunch of guys. And I think Culp won.
Timothy Culp won at Little Rock.
And at Batesville, you got to announce a little bit of that one.
Got to announce a little bit of that race, and Kyle Beard won his first late model race ever at Batesville, Arkansas. So he was excited. So, like I said, the old Comp Cam series was hitting on all eight this weekend, except for I think the feature got rained out at the Legit.
Got rained out at Legit, so they didn't get to finish that. But and I had Mr. UFO himself, Wayne Brooks, won there at BMS this weekend.
IT with a very good race. Wayne Brooks won the IMCA modified feature. Didn't start up front, had to pass a few cars to get the lead, but led the biggest part of the race and just did a fantastic job. It was good to see Wayne back in victory lane.
I don't know how old Wayne is. I asked him this last time, but he's got to be 70-year-old anyway.
He won't tell you how old he is.
Tell you.
I can tell you this.
So.
I can tell you this. I'm 54 and I can't remember when he didn't drive a race car. So I don't know how old Wayne is, but he won't tell you.
Yeah, he's been that modified and been in everything for a long time. And Peyton Taylor, he went down at I-30. He won this week. Ron Gorman race and had a good run.
Very special event there in Little Rock.
Yeah.
Saturday night.
Yeah,
And
down there.
Also got to say congratulations to Steve Crocker for winning the Bootlegger 25 at Harrisburg, part of the Southern Outlaw Late Model Series. So a lot of late model racing going on in Arkansas this past weekend. Anything coming up for this weekend? You got a weather report, or we're going to get to race this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to race this week. No, it seems like it rained every weekend.
It's just going to be hot this week. Going to warm back up for the weekend.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll get into tonight's show. Like I said, we're very honored to be here at Elia's Mexican Grill tonight. We've got Keith Lawson sitting over here beside Heath Tate, and I got Chris Ellis over here, and this is a fantastic duo to have here tonight, especially concerning late model racing throughout Arkansas. A lot of history we can talk about tonight. Yeah. So, Heath, I'll let you kick it off.
We'll start with Keith, because he's sitting beside me. And what we used to do is just start off, how you got involved in racing, how you got started.
My dad was a track champion at Hedging Speedway.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a lot of people know is Apollo.
Yeah, Apollo. Yeah, my dad raced over there. My dad raced a lot of places. And I guess it was my dad. I started in Centerville, Arkansas, run 6 cylinders with Bill Yates and all the boys.
Remember that.
Cylinders there. And I had the opportunity to drive Paul Husband's car there with Todd Dixon. Drove my own cars there. Then I went on, and then I guess when Silver closed down, we went on and just kept on going. We went to, I was lucky enough to get the race at the half mile over in El Paso. I've actually won there. It wasn't a very long racetrack, but that was a big place. They went out here and on the back straight away. It was flat. Yeah, oh, man.
I think it was a little bit bigger than a half mile. I don't know, but
El Paso was bigger than Muskogee.
In
Yes.
Muskogee,
Wow.
when Chris was flagging at Muskogee, I stopped and they got a hamburger in the race. I'm dead for that place. But I'm gonna tell you, we had a lot of fun. We ran an enduro race over there, and that was the most fun. I ran a lot of cars over there, but it was a good place. It took me 6 hours over there, and they were good people. Hated closed, but it happens.
You know, and the 6-cylinder class back in the day, there were several. So
Oh, it was
a
fast.
Man, that's what I was fixing
It
to
was
say.
fast.
It was fast. People think 6-cylinder, but it was fast.
And I tell this story. Here comes Wendell Wallace. Wendell's a little kid, okay? I'm like, is that boy even know enough to drive? He comes up there with something. I don't even know where they got this rig, but it was a monstrosity. I mean, it looked like
it was
beer can for a fuel cell.
It was a 55 or 56 Ford. I remember
It didn't
that.
have
It was
a body
red.
on it.
You know.
It was fast.
Yeah.
And Wendell was fast. But Bill's kids, you know, all those boys, good people. Bill and all his family, I really appreciate the opportunity to get to race for them with that family. You know, they're great people. And
There was a bunch of them. You had, like you said, Bill Yates, Bobby Morris.
me and Bobby, and I always tell everybody, and I tell Bobby this day every time I see him, he's my hero. And Bobby always says to me, I never raced with a guy. I tell my wife and everybody, we raced up there in those 6 cylinders. I don't ever remember fixing a dent. We didn't tear up cars.
It was a good clean class.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Melvin
and it
Burris
was
was
fast. No tire rule, no weight rule, no nothing. Run what you bring. And I don't remember cars getting lapped. Cars were just fast. They were out there and they raced, and they did a great job. And good people. There wasn't wrecks. The races didn't last a long time, but it was so much fun. We run 6 cylinders and run a Predator carburetor.
Yeah.
And a Predator carburetor, but we had to run a stock intake. But they let you take the intake, cut it out, make an aluminum funnel to a 4-barrel. And I still have mine. And Leon, that passed away.
Leon Cloninger.
Leon was the biggest race lover in this world. And he was just a good man, good guy. And he loved it. And, but I got it from Leon. Leon talked about it. Anyway, I don't even remember who the guy was that built the one I ran. But it was crazy. The carburetor was bigger than the motor. And he just filled them full of alcohol. I mean, he changed oil every week.
I remember when Leon got into racing, he bought one of the Vegas that Bill Wright.
Bill Wright. Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot about Bill Wright.
Bill Wright had built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, and good people.
Yes.
And Bill, there was 2 of those Vegas. What was the other guy's name?
Marlon Shehorn.
Marlon.
And Kenneth Warren drove for Bill.
Yes. And then you had Bill's son. He won a lot. First time I ever won. I won a heat race at Centerville, and I was so happy that I won. I was a start. I won a heat race. Bill come over to me and I said, "Bill, I finally won. I was excited. You should just driving that car a little hard, wasn't you, son?" I'll never forget that when he told me that. All the way home, I said, "I think Bill's mad at me." It worried me. But now I know that, I was getting better, and I never was. I didn't win at Centerville. I was everybody got to have a participator. That's what makes the fans come.
Yeah.
You got to have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place cars. But there was probably 12 of us, 10 or 12.
Yeah, about that.
And that was if they started a 6-cylinder class again, I promise you, Keith Lawson would be the first car there.
And that was some of the most competitive racing
Yes.
back during that time period.
You remember Owens that owned the car lot in Conway?
Yes.
they had a
Tommy.
class, Tommy Owens, he passed away. Tommy, we had a car built by GRT that raced in Tommy's class, and I think they called it a C class or something like that at Little Rock. It was a long time ago.
Super stock.
Yeah, but it didn't have, it was aluminum metal, but it had a frame.
Yeah.
Anyway, they said, "Did you come down to Little Rock and race?" I said, "Man, I don't go, I don't have a car to race." I said, "All I got is this car at the 6-cylinder. Bring it down there." When I was about a half lap ahead, don't bring that 6-cylinder back. They told me that.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Oh my gosh, what was that, 30 years ago?
And the funny thing you say that.
The middle 80s. The middle 80s.
You know, the funny thing you say that is in the conversation that me and Bill had with, we were talking about Wayne Brooks a while ago. He's talking about his 6-cylinder that he had. They told him the same thing. Don't bring that thing back down here.
Oh, man.
You know, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't realize how quick those little cars were back then.
We didn't have any money. None of us had any money. We would, shave the heads off and bore them down. I'll never forget. We'd take some V8, I think they were 307 pistons, and bore them out 120 thousandths and put them in there. We were turning those things 11 and 12,000 RPMs. They were hand grenades waiting to go off. But I think they had so much alcohol going in them, they couldn't go off.
And there wasn't a lot of engine problems back then
No,
either.
we didn't have engine
You know.
problems. We couldn't, they had us, we just run electronic ignition. And they were so simple. Zoomy headers, we made all that
Yep.
stuff. And my dad was a 6-cylinder champion at Apollo. And that's where I loved the 6-cylinders, He had a 55 Ford. And Ford 6-cylinder was better. Yates' 6-cylinder was bad to the bone.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
They were.
They were. Now, Bobby Moore was pretty good, too. But
Him and Melvin Burris were.
yeah,
They were.
good people. What was the boy's name? I still see him at the races. Didn't he drive like the 19 blue? I seen him in a modified 5 or 6 years ago. There was another guy from up there in the Centerville area. Boy, I wish I could remember everybody's names, but I can't.
And we had,
They were just good people.
Landon ran a 6-cylinder class with him too, didn't he?
Good.
I can't remember now. Leonard Hudson did
Leonard
a little
Hudson.
bit.
Well, I got to drive Paul Hudspeth's Wesson car,
Mm-hmm.
the Corvette that you sat in the middle of.
I remember that car.
With the Wesson wing?
Mhm.
Yeah. I drove that car, and I drove it up there for Talbot, and I'm going to tell you something. That was a race car. I don't I think about it now. How did we not get killed?
It's been about 5 years ago, and I stumbled upon an old car from back in the early 80s, and it was just sitting out in the field. And I'm looking at the construction of it and the old seat that was in it that wasn't a racing seat. And I'm saying the same thing. How did we not get killed years ago? Because there were some fantastic wrecks back then,
Man,
but we lived through it.
I'll tell you.
And you graduated from that and you got into late model racing. How did
Well,
that happen?
in 1987, I was racing four-wheelers, and I won the Arkansas State four-wheeler championship, 500 X-Brake. And I think it was in 87, and I went across the races, and I bought Charlie Armstrong's one car that we won the points championship in at BB and at I-30. I think we won 18 features. We won all the features but one that year between BB and Little Rock. And so that kind of got in my blood. That wasn't a full-blown late model. Those were limited late models back in those days. And Forrest Reed,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Forrest Reed's grandson helped us work on the restaurant. It's such a small world. And then we were sitting there, and we got to racing mods in 08, 09. I guess it was 09, because all those trophies were 09. I raced my street stock in 2001, 2, 3 around there, over in BB and around. I'd go out and race big street stock races. Did well in that. And I was talking to Ben Wagner one day, and he wanted to sell me a mod. So I went to the mods, and 09, I won several races in there. And then I kept watching Chris and them. He started the series about that time.
07.
Yeah,
Started in
it had
07.
been going, and we were up there. And it was 09, or it was 09, I think it was. I I had won a few races in the mod over at Augusta. I think I won 4 times over there that year, and I closed Augusta. Something about me and them closing racetracks, I don't know about that. Anyway, so I'd watched the late models go by, and I thought, man. So we called, and we found a late model, and I'd been talking to Curtis, because he helped me with my mod, Curtis Kidd. And I said, Curtis, why don't you drive a late model? Let's go get one. So we went down to Star, and I don't remember the guy's name we bought the late model from, but we went down to Star, Mississippi, and what, do you remember that guy? I don't remember that guy's name, but we bought a GRT from him in 2010, and that's when Curtis ran his first few races. And we just kind of fell in love with it right there. So then we bought some more. Then we bought a new one, you know. And in I guess 12, we bought a new GRT. And then I owned the 2009 car that John won the Super Series in Texas. That was my purple car. We had all these late models, so we just took off racing with Chris. And we had the most fun. Out of all my racing, I wouldn't take nothing for the Centerville experience, but my couple of years racing, I called it the traveling circus. Because Johnny Virgin, first thing he'd say to me, got the races, Keith, you got your tom-tom tonight? He won't make sure I had my GPS so I can get around the racetrack. I think Burton's the one that needed it.
Burton's a character.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I tell you what, I am proud of one thing, that I run Curtis to throw for me, and I'm so proud of Curtis Cook. Curtis Cook's one of the finest race car drivers, and one of the finest men that I know. He raced for me for about 3 years, and he's just a wonderful person. Still is this day. Love him like he's my family. And all his friends, everything, not ever a minute's trouble. Curtis is a great race car driver. He won some races, racing with Chris, won Rookie of the Year. Very proud of him.
Sure did.
Very proud of him. And then just later on, it just kind of turned into too much, I guess. And Drew Armstrong started driving my mods. I actually bought a mod from Drew and his dad, and sold it and bought a new Rage, and we ended up with all those Rages. I still have 2 of them. I got one brand new one fixing to race the Race for the Hope this year, and Spencer Hughes will be driving it. But the Longhorn deal kind of come through with Ben Wagner again. Ben said, hey Keith, I'm needing another business opportunity. Hey, you want this car? I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You know, I'm getting too old to drive like that. And so I asked Drew if he wanted to drive it, so Drew drove it and did outstanding, you know. I mean, everybody saw him. He did wonderful. You know, he won a Lucas Oil, you know, at the Flash of the Mag. I passed out. We pulled up Lucas Oil, and he wins the heat race, you know. And I'm like, not by a little bit, but by a lot on national TV. And I'm like, holy crap. Did a great job. We did a great car. And that's just kind of how it all happened. And been a lot of cars, and I still have a lot of cars. And like I told you all earlier, I still have Ricky Gaither's car from 2001, and I'm proud of that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great car, and I'm going to tell you, it's only been raced twice. It's fast. I'm going to tell y'all, it's fast. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to beat John Kirby once, and that's all I need to do.
We've heard that a lot lately. I just want to beat John Kirby. Right?
Yeah, that's all I care about is beating John Kirby.
A lot of people are saying that right now.
Well, he cost me $500 once. I told you all that. I lost a bet because of John.
Go ahead and tell that story to everybody watching.
John Kirby would come to Beatty, Arkansas, and late model racing there was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And we'd go there, Johnny would win. And I saw that when I was in a mod. Okay, I saw John win. And I'm like, oh, John, he's a pretty good race car driver. So every time we'd go back there, oh boy, up there, he'd come up, Keith, you want to bet with me? Oh, who's going to win the race? I said, I'll take John Kirby. So every time we race there, I'd take John Kirby for $500. I won every time on this thing, for like 3 times in a row. Then we go up there, I said, didn't he win 3? He won 2.
He won 2.
2,
Yeah.
2 in a row. The 3rd time, the guy come over, and I said, yeah, I'll bet you. And I said, Even though I'm like, boy, I got this in the bag because John's going to win because, I'm racing too. And I'm like, I'm betting against myself, And Curtis is driving for me. We got 2 cars in the feature. He said, we're out there racing. I'm running 6th or 7th. Curtis is winning. John's right behind him. They're trying to pass him. I'm going by the flagman stand as they're going in the corner. I was all there, let him by. Not thinking it pays $2,000 to win the race. So I still tell John Kirby to this day, a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about. John knows.
Yep.
That it cost me $500. But old John's a good race car.
He is, and a good.
He is a good man.
And a good man.
He's a good man. We were at the Fall Nationals in Memphis, 2012, and John was. Me and John started on the front row of a heat race, and John was leading. We come around to the white flag, and I passed John on the inside to win the heat race, and I think he was mad at me. But the whole story to this is, John's fast. I couldn't believe I passed him, and I couldn't believe I passed him the way I did. I just turned down and passed, and I couldn't. I just kind of saw his tires, his car get a little loose, and I'm like, wow. So anyway, I started on the pole of the heat race, and I'm gonna win me this thing. This ain't gonna be no problem. But there was 2 problems. Johnny Burton started on the outside, and Curtis, that was driving before we started, right behind me. Out of Billy Moyer, Billy Moyer was there, Billy Jr. was there, Malone. I always liked this guy, he always had a cool car. The guy was always real fast when you get in those areas. He raced
Bub McCool.
Yeah. Bub McCool's there. I'm talking about this wasn't no gimmick, okay? We earned this. And we're racing, and Johnny says, I'm right behind you. I'm like, I can't pass him. And I'm like, I'm following Johnny around. I said, I guess he's got his tom-tom. I don't know. But he was going, boy. He was going. And we had to stop with a red flag. Somebody got in the fence. When I mean they got in the fence, they were hung up in the fence.
They knocked down the fence and turned forward, yeah.
So we had a red flag. I'm sitting there next to Johnny. I pulled my helmet off, and I said, Johnny, you need to slow down a little bit so I can get around you, And I'm aggravating him, and Curtis is sitting there. And I'm just aggravating him. I got something stupid to say to all of them. We took off. There was like 7 or 8 laps to go. And Curtis, in my own car, hits me, doored me like I ain't never been doored before, puts his spoiler in my face. And I just pick him up going down the back straightaway, down not the pit side, but coming out of turn 2, and I just pick him up, carry him down there in the corner, and I said, take this, bud. And he got through there, and I don't know how he got through there, but I ran 3rd. And Curtis ran 2nd, Johnny Burton won. And congratulations to Johnny. His only Comp Cam race he's ever won, right?
It's his last late model win.
Yeah,
yes.
It's his last late model win, and he did a great job. But back in the old Centerville days, Johnny would come up to Centerville back in our 600, and he would bring something that had to be 2,000 horsepower. It wouldn't turn, but it'd go fast.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, and racing wouldn't have been the same without Johnny, I promise you. There's a lot of good memories.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm long-winded.
No, you're fine. Good stuff.
But no, that's just. We just decided last year, after the late model season, that we had to cut back due to my health and just everything. It was just too much.
Yes, sir.
Just too much. And so this year I still have my hauler. I had it up until last Tuesday. It's gone now, but Spencer Hughes' guy bought it, and I've been letting Spencer use it, and very proud of him. Anybody that doesn't know Spencer Hughes, I need to get to know him, because you're going to know him. He's coming.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you a cool Drew and Charlie.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you a cool Drew and Charlie Armstrong story. I was the flagman at Batesville in the 90s when Charlie won a bunch. And there's a picture of me in Victory Lane with Charlie and Drew. Well, then when Drew won one night at BMS, his mom came up and said, Chris, I want to reenact the picture. And we stand in the same locations with Charlie crew chiefing and Drew driving and me still flagging. And they've got the pictures how many ever years apart in Victory Lane at BMS. It's kind of neat because I've actually had that happen multiple times when you've done it as long as I have. But when you were talking about Drew, that just come to mind that we did that. As
we shift gears a little bit here on the show, and we're going to skip over for a few minutes here with Chris Ellis, we want to thank another one of our sponsors, Skyway Buick GMC up in Joplin, Missouri, for all they do. If you're in the market for a great new vehicle or a used vehicle, give Skyway Buick GMC in Joplin a call. And we're going to move over to Chris Ellis here for a few minutes before we get back with both of these guys. And Chris, like I said, you've been at several racetracks throughout Arkansas, and you're the founder of the Comp Cam's Late Model Series. And we'll let you talk about this, but you're also employment-wise, you're in the educational field. And tell us how somebody who is an assistant superintendent gets going in the dirt track stock car business.
Oh, wow. Well, it actually goes back. My mom says I like 3 days being born at the racetrack. At the Jonesboro Speed Bowl when I was a kid. Mom went to the races on Labor Day, and I was born on Thursday. And then we went every year, my entire life. And then every Friday night at the Speed Bowl, we sat behind the flag stand. So I never really wanted to be a race car driver. I wanted to be the flagman. And you were talking about six-cylinders a while ago. My neighbor in Jonesboro, his twin daughters went to school with me, was Vance Cook. He drove WD-45, it was a six-cylinder. And he won all kinds of races, very successful. But his dad sat in the flag stand next to the flagman at the Speed Bowl every week. And that's my first memories of racing. Well, time rolled along. I'd go to the races with whoever would take me. My mom has a neighbor now, Ferd Jordan, who raced, and his two sons race at Crowley's Ridge. To this day, I'd hop on the back of his toolbox and ride to Bono, to the speedway at Bono that no longer exists, and watch the race. Just whatever I could do. Well, in 1987-ish, somewhere in there, Jerry Buck Sr., who's a flagman all over northeast Arkansas, and Jerry Jr. drove for a long time. But Jerry Buck Sr. quit flagging at Pocahontas at intermission. I don't know why, but I was helping Thomas Brown on his limited late model, or super hobby, we called him back then. And Gib Burgess that owns Pocahontas, B&M Speedway, came down the pits, said, you know, anybody can flag, the flagman quit. And Thomas's dad said, that kid right there can. He's been going to races all of his life. So that's how it started. That's how I became the flagman 35 years ago. And I've worked at 6 different races. I could go through the whole chronology, but it's too long to go through. But
And I want to say this, your reputation as a flagman and official, you have probably the greatest reputation that I know of, for being a racetrack official, and that's something you should be very proud of.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill. I do appreciate it. It's kind of funny. When we owned BB Speedway, when I actually worked for Terry Butler, and then we were partners in Harrisburg. But when we owned BB and ran BB, Gary Green took over Texarkana. And so I'd been at Nashville for years as the flagman north of there. So I go down for play day, and Gary's wanting me to flag for him, and I'm telling him what I need to do to get what I need to come down there. Anyway, so a guy down there says, hey, the flagman's going to be the flagman. And Gary goes, what are you talking about? But to that guy, the only flagman he'd ever seen to that point was me. So that's how he referred to me. I was the flagman. He didn't even know my name, but the flagman was going to be like I was the only one there is. And I told him, I said, look, bud, I got news for you. There's a whole bunch of them out there. You just happen to be at the racetracks where I've been.
But it's a tough job. And most of the time, most flagmen's reputations don't last very long. But yours has lasted your entire career, and I just think that goes back to the type of job that you do on the flag stand and how you control a race. And I don't know of anybody out there in the general area that has the reputation that you do for maintaining a race.
Best ever, so.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, that's the best part. I think that was, I loved it when he went up there. You know, we were racing. You know, I just thought it was great. I thought he always, whatever he said, that's what we did. You know.
I just always try to remember it's a car number. It's like refereeing a basketball game. It's the same difference. And fans come to see a quick, efficient show. Now, I wasn't always known for my patience. It's like we're having too many yellow flags and we're taking a long time. I don't have any patience for that. But I always thought it was important to be consistent. And if you say this is what you're going to do, then you better do it. And that tells everybody in the pit that you mean business. And the flip side of that is promoter, owner, or whatever. If you say it pays X amount, then when they leave there, like if you lost $10,000 that night, that's your fault. It's not the driver's fault. You can't come up and say, hey, sorry, I can't afford to pay you. That's what it pays. And I was telling you guys the story earlier, and I won't name the place, but we got the hot check one night for the purse. Every driver at race got paid. Every one of them. Now, I didn't get paid, but every one of them got paid because they were there because I asked them to be there. So I took care of those people because they had my word. So that's that.
If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have took that money. I'd have to give that money back to him. All I cared about was that cardboard check because we won that money he's talking about.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you, that ride home was pretty exciting. And we tried to get up there and up the road a little while. I'm not going to say where we were at, but had to stop at the Waffle House. We just wanted something to eat. We were so excited. We carried that check in the Waffle House. And now I have to hear this story and I feel bad.
And if there's any other drivers out there that are feeling bad, contact Chris.
Now, I will say this. I'm going to brag on the drivers. When I owned Harrisburg, we had a twin 5,000 to win one weekend. There was a hurricane coming in. It never rained at Harrisburg. So we go out and we run the show Friday night. There's 144 paying customers in the stands.
Oh, my goodness.
And Wendell wins it. And Wendell gets out and calls me by my nickname. And he goes, dang, Big Show, there ain't nobody here. And I said, Wally, there ain't been anybody here all night. So we took us a really big bath. But Wendell and Terry Phillips, Steve Rush, and Jack, all of them came to me the next night and said, if it rains any at all, pull the plug. You don't need to take another lick. And it sprinkled about 4 drops, and I called it, and not one guy complained because they knew that we got killed the night before, and they were appreciative, and I always respected those guys because they could have not had that attitude, and it might have broke us, but they were really good to work with us. And I mean, I've been blessed. We started the series in 07. And
Tell us how the series got started.
I mean, the story behind it?
Yes, that's what we're here for.
Okay. We were, one night, as you know, at BMS, we have what's called the board meeting at the end of the night in the suite upstairs. And we talk about everything. We cure the world's problems.
Or we think we do.
Or we think we do. And Moon, we used to talk about we're going to heaven in 07. We're going to be great in 08. And going to be fine in 09. And that's just been an ongoing thing with, because I've worked, me and Rick, the mayor, I call him, and Wimp and Boone, we've been together up there since 93 or 4, like forever. So anyway, we're up there solving the world's problems, and Jeff Floyd calls me. They had driven to Lake of the Ozarks for the third time for it to rain out. Him and Jeff Taylor, Russian, a bunch of them from over our way. He calls me and says, Ellis, we got to do something. We got to start a racing series or do something where we can race closer to home, because there wasn't any late models in Arkansas, like open late models. So I hang up the phone and I look at Chucky, and Chucky says, what was it? Who won? I said, well, I got rained out again. I said, but Floyd says we need to try to start something closer to home. And Moon says, I don't think y'all can do that. There ain't enough tracks, blah, blah, blah. And looking back, knowing Moon and how he picks at us all the time, he probably did it just aggravating us. I mean, he didn't mean anything by it. He's always been super supportive, giving me races and helped me for years and years. But he probably just did it to agitate me and Chucky, you know. And so we did. I just called all the tracks where I used to work and a few other people that I knew. Got about 8 or 9 tracks the first year. And Moon helped me get Malden, Missouri. One of my good friends, Phil Sandy, on Malden, which talking about tracks that aren't in it. It's not there anymore. And that's where we started. And it's called MSRA, Mid-South Racing Association. It was named after Ben Shelton's message board. That's how we named it. I was trying to think of a name, and that's how we named it. And for 3 years, that's what it was called. It was sponsored by O'Reilly's the second year. The third year, it was called Comp Cam's MSRA. And then starting in year 4, I went over, met with Chris Douglas and his people from Comp Cam's, made a presentation, and we named it. We signed a contract, and crazily that we've never signed another one. It's just been ongoing, and we're blessed. But anyway, we named it the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series, and it caught on, and it's just gotten bigger and better ever since.
And now it's the number 3 dirt late model series in the nation.
That's correct. It's behind Lucas Oil World Outlaws. It's number 3, and I'm very proud of that. HPs, I call him, Chris Sullivan and Jack, they've done a tremendous job of growing it bigger than it. Just gotten to the point. It's one of those deals where you had to grow your business. We had to, either growing or you're losing ground. And our mission, once we got going, and I'll just be honest, I never did worry about other series or whatever, but one of my goals, I wanted to get rid of the 12-inch spoiler. That was one of my goals. I wanted to get it to where we're racing all over the South with an 8-inch spoiler, not having to mess with all that. We wanted to evolve out of hard tires and get a more medium-based tire, not real soft, but not the hard tire we've been on forever. And that we've all kind of evolved through that. But then with Chris and Jack, they've made the point fund better. They've made the nightly money better. We're on Flow Racing, 15 shows a year. So it's been evolved. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's what it has to do. It's either grow or die. So you got to grow.
Well, you were talking before the show about watching the Flow Racing Friday night from Batesville, and about the sense of pride that you felt seeing how it had grown from beginning to end. Can you elaborate a little bit on that about kind of how you felt sitting there watching? And it was a premier show Friday night.
Well,
the drivers done good. The Flow Racing telecast was excellent. How does that make Chris Ellis feel from inside when he's sitting there watching that?
Oh, I mean, tremendous, because Kyle won it on the last lap pass. And Kyle's the only guy been there every year. Kyle started with us, and he's been there every year. I've known him since he was a small child. His dad actually owned Harrisburg before we did years ago. And I just thought if people could see where we started with that used Tahoe and the barn door trailer and the blue tent with the rocks on the lineup sheets to keep them from blowing across the pits. And I laugh about this all the time, but we used to get our money, we get paid, and we throw the money in the floorboard of the Tahoe and go to the racetrack. Chucky worked turn 4 and I flagged, and Keith announced. There's 3 of us. That was it. So we just threw the money bag in the floor. And I remember we raced a doubleheader weekend at Texarkana and Nashville, and we got paid in all cash. Well, I was afraid we were going to get robbed, So I gave Jeff Floyd half the money, and I took half to come back to Northeast Arkansas because my theory was if they robbed us, we'd only lose half the money, not all the money. Because we'd have lost all the money, we'd have been broke and out of business. So I remember doing that, and I just think back like that was crazy. But to think that we were there and now we're here, it's like, I mean, no one would have ever dreamed. But I'm very thankful, and I mean, it's a tribute. I heard Jack say on one of y'all shows, everyone's our customer. Promoters are customer, sponsors are customer, racers are customer, fans are our customer. We got 4 customers. And the fact that we had all those sets of customers that want us to keep going and on and on and on has been a blessing.
You know, and I think the other thing is when you look out at the stands, and when a Comp Cam Series race comes to town, and you look at the normal amount of fans that you have on a weekly basis, and then when the Comp Cams comes in and you look out and you look at your crowd, the number of people that file into those racetracks for those races, you know, for Arkansas here is just astronomical.
Well, I can say this. And I learned this from Mooney. Mooney always said, you got to make it bigger than it is. And so Lance Landers had a toter home that Jared had used, and Lance wanted to sell it. And he wanted me to have it. He'd been sponsoring me a dually. He'd sponsored me a dually forever. And he said, Chris, you need to buy this toter home. And I said, I can't afford it. He goes, I'll make it. I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. So we got this toter home, and I bought a stacker trailer with it, and New Vision, Kurt Shaw lettered it up, made it gorgeous. And I figured out after the fact, that's what put us over the top. Because when we pulled into these places that didn't have Lucas Oil, we looked like we were Lucas Oil. And then more sponsors wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be involved. More media wanted to be involved because it looked like a big deal. We weren't a big deal, but it looked like a big deal. Now, did I make any money doing that? No. None. No, I heard Jack say this on one of y'all shows. Profit margin for this deal is 0, but it's either no late models, no super late models in this part of the world, or do what we do because we love it, and that's why we did it.
And I think a lot of people, looking back, attribute to you saving super late model racing in Arkansas.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I was just part of it.
That's just not me saying it, but in hindsight, if you look back, if you hadn't have started the series, super late model racing in Arkansas would have probably dissolved.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he did. I mean, there's nobody else that did it. He did it himself, and everybody that helped him. The crew that was there when I raced with them, they were the greatest people ever. I've had people ask me, Keith, why do you go up in the stands? You know, if our cars were okay, I called it, you know, like I said, it was a traveling circus. Those people come to see us. That's the only thing that hurts me about a race car driver that has to take this. Those people come to see you. They want to talk to you. They don't care if you run last, first, in the middle, or you're upside down. They want to see you. They want to touch you. They want to know you're real.
You said something right there that we've said on a few different shows that we've had, that the fan and the driver interaction is a big thing. Because
Yes.
without them, we don't have racing.
Yes.
And we need more of it.
And we need more of it.
We were racing, Chris, whatever Chris said, you know, it was gold. The only thing I ever disagreed with Chris about was one thing. But it was a time thing. He wanted to get the races over, but the people there wanted to see the drivers. They wanted to see a driver introduction. But if it didn't have time, we couldn't do it, and I understood that. But those people wanted to see those drivers. There was a lot of races we went to, we couldn't do that because of time. And there was a lot of racetracks we had to get over. And people don't realize that.
You learn a lot about the value of time at a racetrack being around Mooney Star, because he's right about one thing. The show's got to be like a movie. It's got to start at 8 o'clock. It's got to be over right around 10 o'clock. That way, you know, people will come back but you're right too. People want to take time out to see the drivers.
Well, Johnny Burton, talking about Johnny, started he was starting second behind Bill Fry up at the big race in Missouri back in the old Tapper days.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest sayings ever was, they come and asked Johnny, said, how are you going to get around Bill here to take the lead? He said, well, when I come to the corner down there, I'm going to knock him out of the way. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? Well, let me tell you, a lot of people do remember that. They remember that because Johnny was a fan favorite. You know, he talked, he did, he mingled, he talked. And I always thought that. When I come to Beatty, you owned the track at the time, I come on there in my factory stocks and stuff, I give away bubble gum to the kids. I've climbed that fence at BB, I don't know how many times. I've given away probably hundreds of buckets of bubble gum. And Chris didn't know that, but I was the bubble gum guy. He don't even remember that probably. But that was back in the earlier days. It may have been before you built the track there.
And you'll remember this, Keith. And another thing we've talked about is it seems like at a lot of the venues that we have racing at now, the fans and the pits are too far separated.
Uh-huh.
And you'll remember back in the 80s at Centerville that when the races were over,
They
Mr.
opened it.
Cook
Yes.
opened the
He
pit
sure
gates.
did.
And
He
the other
talked
thing
to
was, as a driver,
That's the way I grew up.
you know, you see a lot of times now at a race, as quick as a driver's race is over, they load the car up and they're out the gate on the way home. And Cook would not let you leave.
Yes.
You could not leave if you was a driver until you visited with the fans after the races.
And that place was always packed.
Packed.
Always
Yeah.
packed. Packed.
And I always say that if a fan out there has got a little bit of personal interaction with the driver, if it's somebody that don't come to the races a lot, if they develop that personal contact with the driver, they're going to come back more times.
Arkansas, when we used to go to Missouri or Texas or Louisiana, but mostly if we went north or into Mississippi, any time I've raced, even when we was racing with Chris, when we got to those places, most of those towns you come into, you're a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
In Arkansas, they don't know who you are.
Right.
I mean, we just don't have racetracks and fans like Chris said.
Now,
You know,
I
like
will-
they do other states.
I will say this now, that there was a time in the Fort Smith, Arkansas area when Cecil Harlan was
Yes,
promoting
yes,
Tri-State.
yes,
Now
yes.
those guys up there were rock stars.
Yeah.
I mean, he made celebrity out of each and every driver that he had up there. I mean, he told me one time, when my guys go to Walmart or they go out to eat, I want people to know who those guys are.
Oh,
You know,
Chris,
what-
you had, like I said, you kept up with late model racing your whole life. That's what your big thing was. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize it, but we've had some unbelievable late model guys come out of Arkansas.
Oh, I mean,
Oh,
per capita,
That's what, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's, you know, we've had a lot of great guys come out of Arkansas that you got to be involved with and watch.
well, I mean, going back to my childhood, I mean, you look at the National Late Model Hall of Fame, Tommy Joe's in there, Wayne Brooks from that era, of course, Moyer, Shaw,
Bill Fry.
Joe Garrison, Bill Fry, Moon. I mean, that's a bunch of people from a small populated state in the Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame. And I attribute this, and a lot of people don't give them, you know, they call it Delaware double file restarts, and I'm going on record right here. That's called a Batesville Speedway double file restart. I don't care who says, I ain't never been to Delaware, but I'm here to tell you, starting in 1993, we did double file restarts at BMS. And I give Moon credit for that. In fact, Carl Short brought Moon to the Dirt Track World Championship to do double file restarts in like 1994. And so that's what brought that to the prevalence back in that era. I mean, that happened. So there's been a lot of influence. I mean, Shaw built a ton of winning race cars. Joe, you know, Joe's no longer with us, unfortunately, but Joe built, I mean, GRT was the car for a certain era, kind of like Rocket or Longhorn now. In its day, everybody had a GRT. Anybody in the front had a GRT. So Arkansas has had a tremendous influence on late model racing. And I just, you know, when I came along and got involved in it, we just wanted to keep it alive. We just wanted, and like I said, it's super late model racing. And I don't mean that as a negative toward guys that drive limited or crate. That's just not my thing, you know. It's just I want to see supers and open cars, and
We're gonna spend
that's what I
all
try
the
to
money
do.
we can.
That's exactly right. I'm not. Hey, one rule there is. Keith talked about the rules a while ago. There's not a rule on that you have to spend money.
No.
I've never told anybody to buy a toter home. I never told them to buy aluminum block engines. I never told them to do any. I never told them to buy these high dollar shocks. They did all that on their own.
Well, we did too. That, y'all, I shouldn't tell this, but there was this toter home with this big comp cam sign on it in Yellville, Arkansas. Hung up high center at the highway department.
Yeah,
Didn't make it in the racetrack.
the mayor missed the turn
I was like, what's going
at
on?
Flipping at North Central Arkansas Speedway. The mayor went by. He said, "Oh, it's no problem. We'll turn around at the highway department." We were high centered at the highway department. That's a true story.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of stories from the, and
my
we
goodness.
call it the traveling circus as well because it's crazy. We had a deal one night at Greenville where the fan opened up the door and said, "Somebody call the police. Somebody done stuck Bubba. They've stabbed a guy outside the press box in Greenville, Mississippi during our feature." So I was in the flag stand, but I don't know what happened. But that's a true story. That happened. We when I was still running the series, Jack married a couple on the front straightaway in Kilgore, Texas. I mean, just
goodness.
I could go on and on. It's
It was
crazy.
awesome. And great people. You know, he was talking about Kyle Beard. I was so proud of Kyle the other night. I'm proud that I know Kyle Beard. And Mr. Beard, one night we didn't have enough cars. And it was a shortage of cars. We were in Crawford County. And that's another place that would get single file and rubber up. Anyway, so Kyle got his extra car out. Mr. Beard drove. He did a good job. He was a good race car driver. And all he had was his tennis shoes and I think he got one of Kyle's driving suits and he drove. But everybody.
No,
did
I won't
everything.
go on record. He had on flame retardant shoes.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
We were laughing.
Of course he did. And gloves.
I lost my gloves before a time or two.
What do y'all think? And we talked a little bit about, and it's something that seems to be coming on here in Arkansas. It's the steel block late model. Those series, the steel block series that we've got, how important are they to late model racing? Say as a beginning farm league to something like the Comp Camp series. How important is that?
Well, 10 years ago, I'd have told you it's important. Now I would say it's the other way, because when they start paying $3,000 to $5,000 to win for a crate or a limited, then they're going to quit doing what we do because of the money. And then what happens is people want to find a class they can be successful in. They say it's about what they can afford.
Yeah.
No,
It's about where they can win.
it's about where they can be hero. That's what I call it. It's a hero effect. I get my picture made, I get a trophy, I get to kiss the girl, I get to go to work Monday and say I won. And by that I mean this: if you pay enough money, and I'm glad they did this. I'm just going to use this example. Catman, they had a tribute to Kenneth the other night at Texarkana, and I'm thankful they did. I knew Kenneth a long time. Skeet raced for him. I love those people, and I'm glad
Talking
they did
about
that.
Kenneth Mitchell.
Yeah, Kenneth Mitchell.
Great
But
man.
Kyle Beard got a crate motor and went to Texarkana and raced for $5,000 to win. If he'd paid $1,200 to win, Kyle Beard wouldn't have won. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So when that money starts getting up there,
But I guess where I was going with my question is kind of a place for somebody to get acquainted with a late model and maybe move up. Is
right
there a
the
place
opposite.
for that?
It's right the opposite. It's people like me. I have one. Everybody knows that. John Kirby has one. Most of all those guys are late model, super late model racers that's come back down. That's what Chris is saying. There's a lot of it, people are coming back down, so it's not a stepping stone. There are a few kids, I mean, I don't really know any. I mean, the Proctor boy, he went straight to super late model racing, doing a great job, very proud of him. A lot of these young people, they don't really, I mean, Wesley kind of did it, but I just don't see where he is now. Back a long time ago, I could see where it would have been. But
Yeah, I think
not
it used to be.
nowadays. I think every one of those guys wants to be a super late model racer, but it goes back to what, I do it because Ellie won't let me do the big cars anymore.
Well, we'll talk to her before we leave, okay?
My late business partner, Terry Butler, Walt Butler's father, he called it the golden rule of racing. Those with the gold rule.
Yeah.
And so you look at NASCAR, Hendricks, Gibbs, whoever, I mean, it trickles down. It can be, and all my life, all the racetracks I've worked, 2 or 3 guys in every class win. No matter where it's at, whether it's in Centerville, Nashville, Crowley's Ridge, Harrisburg, BB, the same core group of guys are going to be in the front. They're going to have better stuff, or they're going to have a better maintenance program, which is huge.
That's the big
Huge.
thing right there.
Yeah.
Maintenance is the greatest
Yeah,
thing.
but being able to afford to have a maintenance program, that's huge. So that's been that. I mean, to me, I don't know how you take that out of that. Now, the one fear I have, when I started the series, I thought 10 years. We're on year 15. I pray it makes it 20. That I think we might be capped out at our level. I think it's going to be the big level, like running for that kind of money, because like Mr. Kaczynski just paid, winning purses at I-80 was $107,000 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I mean, that's huge. And the start money on Saturday night was $5,300 to run 32nd. That's huge. I mean, that's going to get there.
Are we paying too much money in the sport?
No, I think the money's not spread out enough. And I think they said that at that race. The winners should get a lot more, but I think the payback is what people look at when they go race. We go to a big mod race when Drew drove for me. I looked at the payback. He wanted to go race for prestige. I wanted to make sure we had enough money, Anyway, I had to count on him winning sometimes, and he did, but I had to look at paybacks. If a race only pays $100 to start, I couldn't go to it. I needed races that paid $1,000 to start. And I think as a racer, I think payback is the greatest thing. But in order for a racetrack or a promoter to do that, you got to have fans. And you got to have commitment from the community. Mm-hmm. And without that, you ain't going to get payback.
I've often said that a few times too. You got $25,000 to win, $3,000 for second. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah, sometimes
I
they're really
kind of
messed
like
up.
that idea of spreading it out to the field too, because to me, right now it is hard to get in some places to get a full field of cars to have a. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I think me and Chris was talking earlier. There's so many racetracks now, especially up north, that pay. That are paid $4,000 and $5,000 to win every night.
Mm-hmm. That's Thursday, yeah.
Thursday,
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. So there's lots of that going on. So
Yeah.
and it's not just one little area. There's lots of areas up there that do that. So I mean, it's
Well, your population you got to draw from is huge.
yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of factors
There is.
that you have to get, but you gotta pay enough to get cart. Like when we started, Friday nights paid $1,500 and Saturday paid $2,000. And now we don't have anything that doesn't pay $3,000. Period. And a lot of them pay $5,000. And I mean, they sanctioned the Bad Boy this year, paid $12,000, biggest one ever. So, and then you got to go to places that can afford it.
Right.
And there's just a lot of factors that go into it. And the promoter has to be willing to take the risk of having you.
And sponsorship, all the sponsorships that y'all get is a big thing. I mean, that's
Huge.
Oh, man.
And you touched on something there. Talk a little bit, and it's something a lot of people don't ever think about in racing, and I know a lot of the fans don't, and sometimes I don't think the drivers do. Talk a little bit about the risks that the promoters take.
Well,
You've been there.
yeah, I mean, okay, let's say that I still own Harrisburg and I'm having the comp cams and I'm having a 5,000 win, 500 to start. So my late model purse is going to be $20,000. Then I'm going to have I'm going to have 3 weekly classes. That's going to be another $6,000. And then I got all my bills and all that, help, insurance. So I'm looking to break even. I'm at $35,000 to break even. Now the series is getting entry fee, so I'm not getting any of that. So $20 ticket in the bleachers, 30 in the pits. So probably in the pits, I'm going to have 600 people at Harrisburg. So that's $18,000. And in the stands, so 35 minus 18, 17,000 at $20. I got to have 850 in the stands to break even. Now I'm not counting my concessions, because that's the money you hope to make plus sponsorship. That's if you have no sponsorship. But what you got to do, you got to get out and get you like 5 sponsors for $1,000 a piece. That pays the winner. Well, now you're going to make 5 off your gates, and you're going to make your concession money. So you might go home with $15,000.
So let's say this happens. Let's say at 4 o'clock, a little rainstorm comes through. It doesn't last long, but it's enough to make everybody go, and it remains cloudy. What kind of pressure does that put on you that night?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. At Texarkana, I was real fortunate. If they wouldn't have a show at Texarkana, they'd rent it to me. And Bill Wizen that has it now would always sponsor me. A1 Salvage and Chuck that owned the motor best engines down there, he'd sponsor me. They'd help me have it. Well, my old announcer, Keith Schutte, he wanted to co-promote with me. So I said, sure, we'll go in partners, no big deal. 0% chance of rain. We wake up on Saturday. I look out the hotel. It's raining. And I call Schutte down at Hooks and say, look out your window. He said, oh, sun's shining here. I said, it's raining in Texarkana. So we get to the racetrack. It has not rained a drop, nothing. And so he's pacing and sweating and nervous and all that. He says, what are we going to do? And I go, I'm going to go in the toter and take a nap. Wake me up at 4:30. He goes, that's all you're going to do? I said, we're either going to lose $10,000 or make a little. That's what we're going to do. He goes, $10,000? That's half of that's $5,000. I said, hey, big boy, you wanted to promote. Congratulations. Well, we got lucky that it quit about 3 o'clock that afternoon, and it didn't just come a flood, and we got to show it. It actually made a little money. But, I mean, the stress, if you let it, it'll just eat you up. If you're in the business, you just have to understand, this is what I've committed to do. And I've told people who have leased racetracks and bought racetracks, if you can't afford to lose $10,000 a night, you don't need to be in the business.
And where I was going with that is just because the race goes on, just because we've had a little bad weather that day and it deterred a lot of people from coming out, just because the race goes on doesn't mean the promoter's making any money that night.
No.
No, there's a lot of races that don't make any.
You know.
There's a lot of times people look up in the stands and they'll say, oh man, they got a crowd, or oh man, look at the pit count or whatever. But they don't really do the math, like to know the in depth of what it costs to get there. So it's not it's like, Fortune 500 guys aren't buying dirt tracks. They invest their money in things that return profit. So therefore, that's a sure sign.
The racetrack in Missouri, they closed when they had the accident when we were there. Malden, Missouri. Poor man lost his life there. Was just a pit helper. And I'm going to tell you, I had to be the terrible person to witness all that. And I hate that for his family. We left there, and we left them all the money. Mm-hmm. Every racer there. That's what kind of people the racers
Right.
Every one of them. Not one of them wanted their money. Not one of them wanted their money. They didn't want their money back. They didn't want nothing. Give it to the family. Yeah, we left there.
That's true.
Heavy-hearted. And, man, I didn't personally know him. I saw the whole thing, but I hated it. Hated it for his family. But we left there. That's what kind of people all those people are. And I'm going to say, I raced with a lot of people over the years. I've been racing a long time. The Don Kim thing with this is probably one of the best things, and I said this one ago, that I ever did. But people need to know these racers, they've got to help these promoters.
Yeah.
They've got to get people. Most of them are working on the car. I don't care. I'm going to win that $5,000. That's crappy way to have an attitude. You know, you got to help them. You got to get people to go. When I would go to the races, I don't care to tell anybody, if I was locally racing here, there would be at least 40 people that were there to see us race. I know there was. There's people sitting right here in these chairs that went to every race that we ever raced. They never raced a car.
You know, and we
They
preach
still-
that. We preach it all the time that, you know, the drivers have got to get more involved with the fans and the track owners. And,
Yes, thank God too. The racing's going to die around here.
Well, one thing, these things right here, or computers, is the worst thing to ever happen, because they get mad and they get on there and they say something negative about their local
my goodness.
racetrack. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you another quick story. A gentleman from Monticello that bought from Smackover, can't think of his name, made it super nice facility, excellent facility. He'd had a big sport mod deal and another deal that weekend, and they'd already booked 2 races with me the next season. He called me, and the promoter that worked for him was a guy from over not far from where y'all are from, and I cannot think of his name. But anyway, he said, "Mr. Ellis, this is whatever, the guy that owned it." He said, "We're not going to be able to keep our agreement for those races next year." I said, "Well, man, I'm sorry to hear that. What's happened?" He said, "My wife was getting ready for church, and one of those modified drivers' wives called and cussed her out this morning." He said, "I don't need a racetrack." So he just locked it up and stored all of his oil equipment out there at this beautiful racetrack because he didn't need a racetrack. And sometimes we cut off her nose, spot her face. I mean, it may be one lane on the bottom, but guess what? You're getting to make circles there, and they're paying. So,
Yeah.
Because like he said, El Paso's gone, and I can name
Malden, El Paso,
I can
mean,
name
there's-
25 tracks that are gone. We don't need them to be gone.
Well, I mean, the city of Little Rock is surrounding Little Rock. And bless their hearts, I mean, they're getting smothered out. How long's that
Yeah.
going to last?
It's for sale.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, the first ones come along is going to want to buy that. And they're not going to want to put a racetrack there, boys.
No. It'll be other commercial property.
It'll be a Sam's or a Costco, probably.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But, you know, and I hate that. I hate that. I don't want to lose Little Rock Racetrack. I don't want to lose Plummerville. And Johnny, you know, Johnny can do it. And I want to say, I really appreciate what Johnny's done there. The place is nice. I went down there and made about 100 laps practicing the old Gator car. And, man, it was nice. It was smooth and fast. Nice.
Well, Heath, as we get here towards the end of the program, I guess it's time for the New Vision Sports Shirts Vision for the Future.
Start with Keith here. What 2021? What are we looking for the rest of the year with you?
2021, we are, I want to kind of say, we are doing our thing with Spencer Hughes. He's driving for CCP Racing out of, gosh, I can't even think what state that's in. It's way up there though. And Spencer's going to come. He's going to drive our Rage, new Rage mod. It's being done right now, and we're going to do that. You know, they're going to do that. We still have. I don't even know how many cars we have that we sponsor. I think there's 6 cars that we still sponsor this year. And Ellie's telling me, I got a grandson. He's about 6. Looks like we are going go-kart racing
Go-kart racing now.
next year. So our 2001's kind of slow, but Ellie doesn't know this yet, so y'all don't tell her. But I'm pretty sure me and Gaither's going to Plummerville here.
Chris, 2021.
Well, I have worked at I-32 nights this year, and I worked for Moon one night, I think, in the flag stand, which is the shortest, lightest schedule I've ever had in my career. I'll still help them if they need help. The irony of it all is I live 5 miles from BMS now. I moved to Batesville, so I live 5 miles. But I went out there and helped with the sprint car race in the infield the other night. So
And he was excited to be down there. Excited?
I was.
He was.
And I don't know about the topless. I don't know what my role will be. I'd like to see Tyler get to do that because that's a thrill when you first get to do it. I've been fortunate enough to do it 17 or 18 times. I don't even know. And I'm going to help Tracy. I did short track nationals last year. I got to add that to my resume. So that's pretty cool. But long term, like beyond this year, me and Jack and Chris have talked about me going back on and doing that. I don't know with my job if I'll ever be able to do it all the time, but there might be a chance I'll help do that more down the road if needed.
We told Chris at the sprint car race he was going to be taking cars.
All right.
And he was excited when we told him that.
Yeah, for a guy who's been in racing all his life, I don't know jack about cars, like zero. Steering wheel, the engine's in front of the driver, got 4 wheels and tire, we're good. I mean, now if you want to prep a dirt track, I'm your man. I can do that. Work on a race car, I don't know anything about them. And don't want to know.
That all the time. I don't care how much money you spend, just be here and race.
Yeah. That was the mayor's department, or at the local track, the sheriff. That's his department.
I'll tell you, Mayor, all those people, I want to thank them too, back then. You know, Keith, the announcer, the mayor, everybody that worked for the company, still to this day, they're fun to be around. Good people.
Yeah.
Good people. Good people. And anybody that don't want, you know, I go back. Racers, loosen up a little bit and you'll have something. If you don't get out and get people, you're going to lose and you're not going to race because there ain't going to be any races.
Now let me mention real quick. I can't forget. Of course, I got all my great sponsors that helped us, but Shooty was the announcer forever. Now Wes, Clinton, Kayla still work for Chris and Jack, and the mayor and Chucky helped me and Kojak when there wasn't anybody. I mean, we started out with 2 or 3 people piecing it together, and without those guys, we'd have never made it.
And I want to say something else. It is hard to find people who will commit week in, week out to help put on racing. You know, and that's what bothers me a lot of times when I see a driver that goes off on a track official or something because something may not have fell their way. If that guy or woman gets upset and quits, they're hard to replace.
Yes.
So yourself. Every now and then you're going to miss a call. It's just like any other sport, but day in, day out, people try to do the best they can.
That's right. And if anybody remembers who that guy is in that picture, that victory lane picture.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, I will say this, as a series director, I always, and as a track owner, I live by this motto: don't chew out my people.
Yeah.
You come talk to me. I'm the guy. Now, you'll see me get fired up, go cuss out one of my employees.
They're there.
That would wound me up. Now, if I had to take it, I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of my job, but don't, because those people are taking off from their regular job, traveling for 6 states, like you said, 30 nights a year, and you're screaming at them. Not good, not good.
Tate, next time Lawson's car is in Victory Lane, we're going to slip in the picture.
Yeah, get the picture. We're still trying to find these people. Got people surrounding me in Victory Lane. This picture and get on right here.
Oh, well, I tell you guys, we've had a lot of fun this hour. This has been good. We appreciate you two being on the show tonight. We've had a lot of fun. And Heath, you going to discuss tonight where we're going next week? Or you going to keep it a secret?
We'll wait.
Going to keep it a secret. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we, again, here on Tuesday Night Tune-Up, we want to thank our sponsors before we leave here tonight. We want to thank Elias Mexican Grill here in Morrilton for hosting the show tonight. They're our guest sponsor this week. And like I said, if you're in Morrilton, passing through Morrilton, please stop in here for a fantastic meal. We want to thank Chambers Bank with the 28 locations throughout Arkansas, Shaw Race Cars up in Batesville, Skyway Buick GMC in Joplin, Missouri, KR Performance Fuels. We want to thank Weston Petroleum. We also want to thank 4Play Speed and Muffler Shop just right down the road in Plumville, Eddie Hoyer, for everything he does. We also got to thank Blankenship's Pit Stop up in Danville. They keep us on the road every week. Jim Philpott up at Greenwood at Philpott's Complete Car Care. We also want to thank Ecky's Parts and Accessories over in North Little Rock, and our drag racing counterparts down at Prescott, Arkansas, Jackie Lewis and all that great gang. as well as Wayne and Patty Stiles at the Centerville Dragway. So we got to thank all of our sponsors, as well as just right up the road, Straight Line Transmissions. Caleb Emerson up there does a great job. So keep our sponsors in mind if you're out there needing those services. And again, it was great having Keith Lawson and the old Big Show Chris Ellis himself here. And thank y'all for all that y'all have done and what you continue to do for the sport. It means a whole lot. Oh, and again, New Vision Graphics, who, by the way, is here in a couple of weeks. You'll be able to get your Arkansas Motorsports Magazine T-shirt that Kurt's just designed, and they're beautiful, and we appreciate all of his efforts that he does to help us out on a weekly basis. So until next week, I'm Bill Gilkey for Keith Lawson, Chris Ellis, and our co-host. Over here, Heath Tate, as well as our production manager, Aaron Gilkey, who has been all over the world trying to get back home. Had a flight canceled the other night and ended up in Denver, Colorado. And he's running on just a few hours sleep, so we appreciate him making his effort tonight to be here. And again, we'll see you back. Oh, real quick, I want to say something. I wanted to say it before we got off here, but talking about Keith Lawson here. And racing runs really deep in his family. His mother is here watching the show tonight, and she is the women's champion from the old Petty Jean Speedway known as Apollo, and we want to give her a big hand of applause. Never got beat. And we thank her for coming by tonight. So thank you. And again, for Arkansas Motorsports Magazine's Tuesday Night Tune-Up, we'll see you back next week.